Hello, welcome back to my channel, Chess Capture Threads. Today's episode 53 of the Chess Guide, will be going over an example game between Garry Kasparov and Veselin Topalov. So, this game is one of Garry Kasparov's best games. If you don't know who he is a massive phenomenon over, a very course period of time. He changed chess over, a decade long at least. So, and Topalov, I'm not too sure too much about him. He's not been too much at the top, but he's still a very, very strong candidate. He always got quite close with, GMs, as in being a GM himself. He was trying hardest in these games, but this game is called Garry Kasparov's Immortal. So, by the looks of it, as you've got on the right of all the brilliant great moves and everything, if you can see that, Garry Kasparov played 5 brilliant moves and 7 great moves with a score of 97.5% accuracy. And that is as good, as it does say below, as a 3000 grade. So, I think we should go through it. So, here, e4 is played to start with. Topalov replies with d6, a very flexible opening here. d4 is played. Knight f6 is then done. So the issue this move can do is this bishop blocks it in, but quite obviously the reason that Topalov's doing this is he's probably the underdog in this scenario, so he's going to try something that might throw off, what we could call Kasparov's theory. So sometimes you, especially at a grandmaster level, you could learn what people's openings are and everything. This might have taken him off course and everything here, but everyone playing book moves right now, so bishop to e3, obviously black trying to Frenchetto as he does so. Queen to d2, could be casting queenside here as white, as he hasn't developed any pieces on the king side. As c6 is played, all book moves still, even from f3. And then b5, we're already 6 moves in. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but 12 moves, all book moves still, is quite good. Now this is the first time I think we're out of the book. And knight to e2, obviously blocking in the bishop, but that's not too bad at the minute. Knight to d7 is then played, kind of a mirror image of what's happened. Now, straight away, Garry Kasparov goes on the attack. Bishop to h6, obviously attacking the bishop g7. Now, obviously, he does capture. He could have castled, but I think that puts his king in a difficult position here. So, after this whole capture, black can now not castle yet. So, obviously, this bishop to b7 move, he's going to be trying to castle queenside. So, a3 is played to stop, obviously, that b4 push. Instead, Topalov goes to this e5 push. So, already looking quite strong. Now, already 11 moves in, and nothing seems too different here yet. But, after the queenside castle for white, queen to e7 played, now we see that he's probably going to castle queenside. King to b1, a very obvious move. Then, a6 is played. Knight to c1, a very positional move. Queenside castles. Now, this is a mistake, they say. And this is because, surprisingly, Kasparov doesn't find it yet, as he plays knight to b3, but he could have taken in this scenario, but obviously they probably have much better plans in this scenario. So obviously they capture here. Probably should have captured with the knight in my opinion, but he does capture with the rook, trying to get that rook lift. Now he plays c5, Topalov does. Now it's alright, as we can see, his idea of an attack, but I don't really see how his king safety is going to work. Knight to b6, so this is quite a positional game at the minute. g3, not the best move. I would have brought the queen down here, maybe to e3. I might have even wanted to bring it down as a check and then try and reroute it this way. I think the reason he's doing this is he wants to get a bishop check, but we'll see. As king to b8 is played already, stopping that already, and then knight to a5, attacking that bishop on b7 as it does move all the way down to a1, a8 should I say, as right now they're even. Obviously if you look at the eval bar, now it's about 0.2, but that's still nothing in it, as this bishop move is still played. d5 now, queen f4 check, king a7, so nearly a amazing fork here. Luckily the bishop just stopping it in time. Rook to e1, centralising the rooks, nothing wrong about that. d4, a very good push, not taking the pawn on e4. Topalov is now making a very good push with his pawns. Now, knight to d5 is played, quite obvious there. Now, we get this whole capture. He doesn't capture back here, Topalov. He actually plays queen to d6, the best move on the board. Now, Great move. He sacrifices Kasparov. D4. Now, after this capture, a brilliant move of rook to e7. So he's not sacrificed one rook. He could have taken this back here and given a check. But no, he plays rook to e7 check. Now, he has to move because if they capture here, there is absolutely, this is going to be losing. Because after you take here, you know, this king comes down and you've got all sorts of things down here. So he cannot physically take. King has to move. Queen now can check. He sacrifices a knight. Now he gives a pawn check on b4. King, obviously, one move has to go to a4. And then another brilliant move because he's keeping his rook unprotected. Sacrificing his rook, obviously, because there is checkmate in one. So they have to stop that. And as he does so, he does do. Queen takes that, the best move. So he's now got rid of the threat. Now, that is the best move. I would have thought something like the bishop could have done better, but I don't think it would have. Rook to a7, another great move here. So obviously attacking this pawn here. Now that forces bishop to b7 pretty much. Otherwise there would have been all sorts of things. You could have played these moves, but it probably wouldn't have worked. Now another brilliant move. Rook takes b7 now. Now the reason is he can't capture because it's still going to be checkmate here. So after this queen move here, he now wins the knight. So you would have thought he's captured so many as white, but he's still a point down. Anyway, king takes this a6 pawn. I don't really reckon how that's going to really work here. As queen takes a3 check, as he now loses another pawn here. So it's 2 pawns up for Topalov still. c3 sacrificing yet another pawn. And then another queen check. Better here. And it isn't, quite obviously, we're not going to play this check here for many reasons. And the main one is this queen to b3 check, giving a trade. And we're going to be losing as white. So this move to a1 is a very good check as it goes back then to b2. Now bishop to f1, a very good move here. As here we attack this queen. If the queen takes, we've obviously got, you know, this check, or should I say, you know, we've got anything here. It's going to be a forced checkmate soon as well because we've actually got check and then check here. And then queen has to block, and then it's going to be checkmate. So, after this bishop f1, rook has to go d2, best move on the board. Rook to d7, another brilliant move here. Obviously, because it cannot capture, otherwise it loses its queen. Now, here we go. And then last but not least, the killer blow. He does win the rook in the end, because it's always been attacking since the start, and we have not, you know, it was very unexpected. Now he's just got to make sure as white that he doesn't, you know, throw this away with his pawn. And as we see here, rook plays to d2 and queen to a7 is going to be him resigning because he is 2 points down. It only says 2 points, but realistically, in a human evaluation, you know, it's a queen for a rook and a pawn. You're about 3 pawns down, or 3 points down, should I say, and you're going to be losing really wherever. You know, there is checks here, but you're going to lose that pawn. You know, this rook's kind of stable on here. It could capture here. Obviously, it can't, though, because you've got a check. And, you know, you're going to be losing everything then. So, as white, you're easily winning. But a very, very fun game there that we saw from Garry Kasparov. So, you call him Kasparov as well. I'm just saying Kasparov, as I believe it's the pronunciation. But again, I'm not one for knowing all of it. So anyway, a very, very strong game here. Garry Kasparov had, you know, there was not really one point that he was properly losing. I think the opening showed a bit of, they were even. Topalov probably was quite happy with how his opening went. You know, both quite positional, both quite, you know, energetic almost going into that middle game. But Garry Kasparov had more energy in the end, as we saw. And he decided to sack everything possible. You know, probably other than his queen, but, you know, every piece was hanging at one point. So there is, you know, that's the type of grandmaster that you will see, as he is much deserved to be, you know, that one of the best chess players here, as this is why, as it's called, his Garry Kasparov's Immortal game. So, because there was probably nothing Topalov could have done, and he probably himself wasn't actually too angry with the loss, as, I mean, what could he have done? So, that is it for the example game. Hopefully you enjoyed that. as that was quite an eventful one. Obviously, we got the rapid increase. I have already recorded that. Now, as you'll see, it was a very silly game, but I will not go into it too much further, and I would want to apologise for that game. But anyway, thank you for watching this video, and hopefully you enjoyed this amazing game. So, thank you, and bye-bye.